Captain Lee Min-jun stood on the bridge of the UES Harmony, watching the stars through the main viewing screen. His ship was one of Earth's newest battleships, built for peace, but ready for war. The Harmony had been patrolling the neutral zone for 3 months without seeing any real action. The bridge was quiet, except for the soft hum of computers. Lieutenant Kim Da-eun worked at the communications station, checking routine messages from Earth Command. At the navigation post, Ensign Park Tae-hyun monitored their position along the border between Imperial space and the outer colonies. Lee sipped his coffee and thought about home. His wife would be making dinner soon, Seoul time. His daughter was probably doing homework. Normal life seemed very far away, out here among the stars. "Captain," Kim called out suddenly. "I'm getting something strange on the long-range sensors." Lee set down his coffee cup. "What kind of strange?" "Large fleet movement in Imperial space, sir. They're heading toward the Kepler sector." Lee frowned. The Kepler sector was supposed to be empty. It was a buffer zone between the two sides, where no military ships were allowed. "How large is this fleet?" "At least 40 ships, sir. Dreadnoughts, cruisers, and fighters." Ensign Park looked up from his station. "Sir, there's nothing in Kepler worth attacking. Just some old mining stations and refugee camps." Lee's stomach went cold. "Refugee camps?" "Yes, sir. Families fleeing the war zones. Maybe 2,000 people. All civilians." The captain walked closer to the sensor display. The Imperial fleet was moving fast, directly toward those camps. Lee had seen what happened when military fleets found civilian targets. It never ended well. "Kim, open a channel to Imperial Command." "Sir?" "Do it." Kim's fingers moved over her controls. After a moment, she shook her head. "No response, Captain. They're not accepting communications." Lee stared at the display. 40 Imperial warships against defenseless families. The Empire had grown cruel over the past century. They saw refugees as traitors who should have stayed loyal to whatever planet they came from. "Sir," Park said quietly, "Earth Command just sent new orders. We're to maintain position and avoid contact with Imperial forces." Perfect timing. Earth wanted them to stay safe while civilians died. Lee understood why headquarters gave such orders. One battleship couldn't fight 40 ships and win. The smart thing would be to report what they saw and let diplomats handle it. But diplomats were slow. Those families had maybe 6 hours before the Imperial fleet arrived. "Captain?" Kim was looking at him with worried eyes. "What are your orders?" Lee closed his eyes for a moment. He thought about his daughter again. Safe at home. Then he thought about other children. Alien children, huddled in refugee camps, while death approached from space. "Set course for the Kepler sector," he said. The bridge went silent. Park stared at him. "Sir, that would mean crossing into Imperial space. That's an act of war." "No," Lee said calmly. "That's an act of humanity." "Lee." Kim's hands shook slightly as she entered the course change. "Captain, Earth Command will not approve this." "Then we won't tell them until it's done." The Harmony turned away from its patrol route and accelerated toward Imperial space. On the screen, Lee could see the invisible line that marked the border. No human ship had crossed it in 50 years. "All hands," Lee announced over the ship's communication system. "This is the captain. We have detected an Imperial fleet moving to attack civilian refugees. We are going to stop them." He paused, thinking about what to say next. "I know this is dangerous. I know we're breaking a lot of rules. But sometimes rules matter less than doing what's right. Anyone who wants to object can do so on the record." Lee waited. No one spoke. "Very well. Take us across the border." The Harmony crossed into Imperial space at exactly 1,347 hours, ship time. Park marked the moment in his log with shaking hands. They were now officially invaders in the eyes of the Empire. Send a message on all frequencies, Lee ordered. Tell them we request safe passage for humanitarian rescue operations. Sir, Kim said, we're getting response signals from Imperial monitoring stations. They seem very confused. Lee almost smiled. The Empire ran on rules and procedures that hadn't changed in 1,000 years. They probably had no idea how to handle one human ship crossing their border to save alien refugees. Let them be confused. How long until we reach the refugee fleet? 4 hours, sir. And the Imperial battle group? 5 hours. Good. They would have 1 hour to evacuate as many people as possible before the shooting started. Lee hoped it would be enough. Dr. Choi Hae-jin arrived on the bridge with her medical team. The ship's chief medical officer was a small woman with fierce eyes. Captain, how many people are we talking about? Maybe 2,000. 6 different alien species, mostly families. My medical bay can handle about 300 safely. We'll need to use cargo holds and convert them to temporary living spaces. Do whatever you need to do, Doctor. The next few hours passed quickly. The crew worked to prepare the ship for refugees. They moved supplies, set up sleeping areas, and prepared food that different species could eat safely. Meanwhile, space around them began filling with Imperial ships, responding to their border crossing. Lee counted 12 vessels, shadowing them at a distance. Captain, Kim reported, we're getting constant messages from Imperial Command demanding we turn back. Any threats? Not yet, sir. They seem more confused than angry. That wouldn't last long. Once the Empire figured out what the Harmony was really doing, they would get very angry very quickly. Sir, we're approaching the refugee fleet now. Lee looked at the screen. Ahead of them, small civilian ships drifted in space. They looked fragile and defenseless. Some were damaged from their escape journeys. Others were clearly converted cargo vessels, never meant to carry families. Open communications with the refugee fleet. A moment later, several voices spoke at once in different languages. Kim worked to sort through them. They're scared, Captain. They think we might be here to arrest them. Tell them we're here to help. Tell them Earth offers them sanctuary. Lee hoped that was true. Earth might not approve of his methods, but they wouldn't turn away refugees once they arrived. The Harmony took position near the refugee fleet. Behind them, more Imperial ships appeared on sensors. Soon, there would be nowhere to run. Lee stood straight and prepared for the most important conversation of his life. Emperor Thexvar stood in his war room, surrounded by holographic displays showing ship movements across the galaxy. His silver skin gleamed under the bright lights as he studied the reports coming in from the border zones. Explain this to me again, he said to his advisors. General Vex Tar stepped forward. His species had served the Empire for 3,000 years as military strategists. Your Majesty, one human battleship has crossed into our space without permission. They claim to be conducting humanitarian operations. Humanitarian operations. The Emperor spoke the words slowly, as if tasting something strange. What does that mean? 1. My well-me bratted. They're 1. Inlan. We are still trying to understand, Your Majesty. The humans are approaching a refugee fleet. In the Kepler sector. The refugees we ordered destroyed? Yes, Your Majesty. Emperor Thexvar had ruled for 2 centuries. In all that time, no enemy had ever crossed Imperial borders to protect refugees. Enemies invaded to steal territory or destroy military targets. They didn't risk war to save alien families. Perhaps this is a trick, suggested Admiral Korthus from her position near the tactical displays. The humans might be using the refugees as cover for a military operation. What military value could that sector have? The Emperor asked. None, Your Majesty. It's empty space with abandoned mining stations. The Emperor's confusion grew deeper. His species, the Theknari, had built the Empire through logical thinking and careful planning. Every action had a purpose that served the Empire's goals. The human action made no sense. Bring me the human ambassador, Ambassador Park Ji-woo was brought to the war room under guard. She was a small woman with gray hair, but she stood straight and looked directly at the Emperor without fear. This surprised him. Most species cowered in his presence. Ambassador, explain your people's actions. Park bowed slightly. Your Majesty, I believe Captain Lee is trying to save innocent lives. Why? The question caught Park off guard. She had expected demands, or threats, not a simple request for explanation. Because they're people, Your Majesty. They have children and elderly. They're afraid and need help. But they are not human people. That doesn't matter to us. Emperor Thexvar studied her face for signs of deception. In his experience, all species put their own kind first. It was natural law. The strong protected their own territory and bloodlines. They didn't risk everything for strangers. You are lying, he decided. I'm not, Your Majesty. Then your captain is insane. Park considered this. Maybe a little, Your Majesty. But humans are often a little insane when it comes to protecting others. The Emperor turned to his military computer system. The advanced AI had analyzed human behavior patterns for decades, trying to predict their actions in future conflicts. Computer, analyze probability of human deception in current situation. Analysis complete. The machine replied in its emotionless voice. Probability of deception, 12%. Probability of unknown military strategy, 31%. Probability of irrational protective behavior, 57%. Irrational protective behavior? Human military history shows repeated instances of forces risking destruction to protect non-allied civilians. This behavior pattern appears consistent across human cultures and time periods. The Emperor felt a strange chill. An enemy he could understand and fight. An enemy driven by emotion instead of logic was much more dangerous. How many ships do we have in the area? 43 vessels, Your Majesty, Admiral Korthas reported. More are arriving every hour. And the human ship? One battleship, the UES Harmony. Crew of 800. No support vessels. Any logical species would retreat when faced with such odds. But according to the computer, humans might not be logical. Computer, if the human ship refuses to withdraw, what are their likely tactics? Based on historical patterns, humans will position themselves between Imperial forces and the civilians they wish to protect. They will not retreat unless civilians are safely evacuated. And if we threaten to destroy them, historical data suggests they will maintain position and attempt to complete their mission regardless of personal survival probability. Emperor Thexvar sat down heavily in his throne. In his long life, he had fought many enemies. Some were strong, some were clever, some were desperate, but none had ever been willing to die for complete strangers. Your Majesty, General Vextar said carefully, our fleet can easily destroy one human ship. Yes. The Emperor agreed. But what happens after we destroy them? The general looked confused. We complete our mission against the refugees. And then? The threat is eliminated, Your Majesty. Emperor Thexvar wasn't so sure. He had watched human reactions to threats against their people. They became much more dangerous when angry. Computer, analyze probable human response if we destroy the Harmony. Analysis shows 89% probability of immediate military escalation. Human forces would likely declare our actions an unprovoked attack on a humanitarian mission. Public opinion across the galaxy would favor human position. Public opinion? Ambassador Park spoke quietly. Your Majesty, the galaxy is watching. Our communications are being monitored by every major power. If you destroy a ship trying to save families. She didn't need to finish. The Emperor understood. His empire was strong, but it wasn't stronger than every other power combined. How long until the human ship reaches the refugee fleet? 2 hours, Your Majesty. And our battle group? 3 hours. The Emperor stood and walked to the main display screen. Red dots showed Imperial ships converging on one small blue dot, representing the human vessel. It looked like an easy victory. But Emperor Thexvar had not ruled for 2 centuries by ignoring complications. The humans had created a situation where winning might cost more than losing. "Send a message to Fleet Commander Zekthros," he ordered. "Tell him to intercept the human ship, but to avoid firing unless fired upon first." "Your Majesty?" General Vex-Tar looked shocked. "We should destroy them immediately. On E. Lever." "No, we should understand them first. I want to talk to this Captain Lee, myself." Ambassador Park looked surprised. "Your Majesty wishes to negotiate?" "I wish to understand why someone would risk war to save strangers. This makes no logical sense." "Perhaps," Park suggested carefully. "Logic isn't the only way to make decisions." The Emperor stared at her. In his species language, there was no word for making important choices based on emotion. The concept didn't exist. But as he watched the human ship moving towards certain destruction to protect alien refugees, Emperor Thexvar began to suspect his species might have missed something important. "Prepare my personal communication link," he ordered. "I want to speak with this Captain Lee directly." Commander Zekthros watched the human battleship approach the refugee fleet through his command screen. His flagship, the Imperial Devastator, led 42 other vessels in a formation designed to intimidate enemies. Usually, it worked. The human ship seemed impossibly small compared to his fleet. Yet it continued moving toward the refugees without slowing down or changing course. "Communications officer," Zekthros ordered, "open a channel to the human vessel." "Channel open, sir." "Human ship, this is Imperial Fleet Commander Zekthros. You are in violation of Imperial space. Withdraw immediately, or we will consider this an act of war." The response came quickly in clear, calm English. "Commander, this is Captain Lee Minjun of the UES Harmony. We are conducting humanitarian rescue operations. We will withdraw as soon as we have evacuated the civilians to safety." Zekthros studied the translation carefully. His species, the Korthani, were known throughout the galaxy for their military precision. They followed orders exactly and expected the same from others. "Captain Lee, you have no authority to conduct operations in Imperial space. The refugees are Imperial subjects who fled their duty to the Empire. Commander, they are families with children. They are not soldiers." "That is irrelevant. It's the only thing that's relevant." Zekthros felt confused by the human's response. In Imperial military doctrine, civilian status meant nothing during wartime. Resources belonged to the Empire. People who ran away were traitors. "Captain Lee, you have 10 minutes to change course. After that, we will open fire." "Commander, we will not abandon these people." The communication ended. Zekthros stared at his tactical display, trying to understand what had just happened. In his 40 years of military service, no enemy had ever refused to retreat when faced with overwhelming force. His tactical officer, a young Korthani named Veltar, looked up from his station. "Sir, should we prepare weapons?" Zekthros hesitated. Destroying the human ship would be easy. But something about Captain Lee's voice bothered him. The human had sounded completely calm, as if death didn't frighten him. "Sir?" Veltar asked again. "Run tactical analysis on the human ship. I want to know their capabilities." "Analysis complete. The Harmony is a new Earth battleship. Advanced weapons and shields, but no match for our fleet. Estimated time to destruction: 4 minutes. And their escape routes? None, sir. They're too close to the refugee fleet to run without abandoning them." Zekthros realized the humans had trapped themselves on purpose. They had positioned their ship where they couldn't retreat without leaving the civilians defenseless. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from Emperor Thexvar himself." "Put it through." The Emperor's image appeared on screen. "Commander, Zekthros. I want to speak with the human captain directly. Your Majesty. They refuse to withdraw. We can destroy them easily. That's not what I asked. Arrange a three-way communication. Minutes later, Captain Lee's face appeared alongside the Emperor's image. Zekthros was surprised by what he saw. The human looked tired, but determined. His eyes showed no fear, only sadness. Captain Lee, the Emperor began. I am Emperor Thexvar. Explain your actions. Your Majesty, we detected your fleet moving toward civilian refugees. We're here to offer them safe passage to neutral territory. These refugees fled their obligations to the Empire. They fled war, Your Majesty. Their home planets were destroyed. They have nowhere else to go. Emperor Thexvar leaned forward. Captain, you risk war between our species for aliens who mean nothing to humanity. They mean everything, Your Majesty. They're people trying to keep their families alive. Why should humans care about alien families? Captain Lee was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was soft but clear. Because caring is what makes us human, Your Majesty. If we stop caring about others, we stop being worth saving ourselves. Zekthros felt something strange happen in his chest. In Korthani society, strength meant the ability to destroy enemies, but Captain Lee spoke of a different kind of strength. Your Majesty, Lee continued, I'm not here to fight you. I'm here to save lives. If you want to destroy my ship afterward, I can't stop you. But please let these families reach safety first. The Emperor was silent for a long time. Finally, he spoke. Commander Zekthros, what is your tactical assessment? Your Majesty, they cannot escape. We have them completely surrounded. And they know this? Yes, Your Majesty. Yet they remain in position. Yes, Your Majesty. Zekthros heard something in the Emperor's voice that he had never heard before. Uncertainty. Captain Lee, the Emperor said. If necessary, Your Majesty. Why? Because someone needs to. The communication ended abruptly. Zekthros stared at his screens, trying to process what he had witnessed. The human captain had just told the most powerful ruler in the galaxy that some things were worth dying for. Sir, Veltar reported, the human ship has reached the refugee fleet. They're beginning docking procedures. On the tactical display, Zekthros watched small transport ships moving between the Harmony and the refugee vessels. Families were being evacuated. Alien children, elderly beings, wounded refugees who could barely walk. Sir, what are your orders? Zekthros realized he was watching something he had never seen before. An enemy who cared more about saving lives than winning battles. Part of him wanted to dismiss it as weakness. But Captain Lee hadn't sounded weak. Continue to monitor, he said finally. Hold position but do not fire without direct orders. Sir, the Emperor wants to understand these humans. So do I. On his screen, Zekthros watched human medics helping alien refugees board their ship. Dr. Choi Hee-jin could be seen directing medical teams, treating wounded beings from species she had probably never encountered before. For the first time in his military career, Commander Zekthros found himself wondering if there might be more to strength than the ability to destroy. Admiral Kang Soo-jin received the emergency message while reviewing supply reports in her office on Earth. The communication was marked with the highest priority codes, which meant either war had started or something equally terrible had happened. She opened the message and felt her stomach drop. Captain Lee had crossed into Imperial space on an unauthorized rescue mission. Earth Command wanted her to contact him immediately and order him to retreat. Kang knew Lee personally. They had served together years ago during the Outer Colony crisis. He was stubborn, principled, and completely impossible to control when he thought lives were at stake. She opened a secure channel to the Harmony. Captain Lee, this is Admiral Kang. What the hell are you doing? Lee's image appeared on her screen. Behind him, She could see his bridge crew working frantically. "Admiral, we're evacuating civilian refugees. The Imperial fleet was moving to destroy them. Captain, you've started an international incident. Earth Command is ordering you to withdraw immediately." "How many have we evacuated so far?" Lee asked, ignoring her order. "Sir," she heard Lieutenant Kim reply in the background. "About 600 people. Mostly children and elderly." "Admiral," Lee said, turning back to face her. "We need more time. There are 1,400 people still waiting." Kang closed her eyes. She had known Lee would say something like that. "Captain, the entire Imperial fleet is surrounding you. You can't save them if you're dead. We can try. This is suicide. This is duty." Kang wanted to argue, but she knew it was useless. She had seen that expression on Lee's face before. During the evacuation of Kepler Station, when pirate fleets attacked civilian settlements. "Captain, I have to ask you officially. Will you obey a direct order to withdraw?" Lee was quiet for a moment. "Admiral, will Earth Command officially order me to abandon 1,400 civilians to die?" Kang realized he had put her in an impossible position. If she gave the order officially, Earth would be responsible for those deaths. If she didn't give the order, Lee would continue his mission and probably start a war. "Damn you, Lee," she whispered. "Yes, ma'am." The communication ended. Kang sat in her chair, staring at the blank screen. She had to make a choice that could affect the entire galaxy. Meanwhile, aboard the Harmony, Dr. Choi Hae-jin worked with her medical teams to help refugee families. The ship's cargo bays had been converted into temporary living spaces, but they were already overcrowded. "Doctor," called Nurse Song Yeon-ha. "We have a Zephyrian child with radiation poisoning. Her family's ship was damaged during their escape." Choi hurried to examine the patient. The little girl was unconscious, her blue skin showing dark marks from radiation exposure. Her parents watched with desperate eyes as Choi worked. "Can you help her?" the father asked in broken standard language. "We'll do everything we can," Choi promised. As she worked to stabilize the child, Choi thought about her own daughter back on Earth. This alien child was someone's baby, loved just as much as any human child. On the bridge, Captain Lee watched the Imperial fleet holding position around them. Commander Zekthros had not fired, which surprised him. Maybe the Empire was more reasonable than he had thought. "Captain," Kim reported, "we're getting communications from all over the galaxy. News of our situation is spreading." "What kind of communications?" "Support messages, mostly. The outer colonies are demanding the Empire let us complete the rescue. Several neutral governments are offering to mediate." Lee nodded. "Public opinion might be their only weapon against the Imperial fleet. Sir, we're also getting personal messages for the refugees. Families who made it to safety are trying to contact relatives still aboard the refugee ships. Put some of them through." The main screen filled with images of alien families. A Keitharan grandmother spoke tearfully to her grandson, still waiting for evacuation. Nexari parents sang a lullaby to their daughter, aboard one of the refugee vessels. Lieutenant Park Tae-hyun, the navigation officer, wiped his eyes. "Sir, they're just trying to stay together. That's all any of us want." Lee agreed. At that moment, Emperor Thexvar was facing his own difficult choice. His advisors argued loudly in the throne room, some demanding immediate attack, while others suggested caution. "Your Majesty," General Vextar insisted, "we must destroy them now. Every moment we delay makes us look weak. Public opinion across the galaxy favors the humans," Admiral Korthas pointed out. "If we attack a humanitarian mission, we could face a coalition against us." Ambassador Park Ji-woo spoke quietly from her position near the throne. "Your Majesty, there is another choice." The room fell silent. The Emperor looked at her. "Explain." Treng. "You could escort the refugees to safety yourself. Show the galaxy that the Empire protects the innocent. General Vextar looked shocked. That would be surrender to human demands. No, Park said calmly. That would be leadership. Emperor Thexvar studied the tactical displays, showing his fleet surrounding one small human ship. He had the power to destroy them easily, but power unused was sometimes more valuable than power displayed. Computer, he said, analyze probable outcomes if we allow the evacuation to proceed. Analysis shows 73% probability of improved imperial reputation among neutral species. Public opinion would shift in favor of imperial mercy and wisdom. And if we destroy the human ship? 89% probability of immediate diplomatic crisis. Possible formation of anti-imperial alliance, including Earth and outer colonies. The Emperor stood and walked to the observation window. Outside, he could see the vast fleets of his empire stretching across space. All that power, built over centuries of conquest and control. But watching one human captain risk everything for alien strangers made him wonder if the Empire had forgotten something important along the way. Send a message to Commander Zekthros, he ordered finally. Tell him I want to speak with Captain Lee again. Your Majesty? General Vextar asked. I have a proposal to make. Emperor Thexvar's image appeared on the main screen of the Harmony's bridge. Captain Lee stood straight, ready for whatever the Emperor might demand. Captain Lee, the Emperor began. I have watched your actions with great interest. Your Majesty, you have put me in a very difficult position. My advisors want me to destroy your ship and complete our original mission. Lee's crew tensed, but the captain remained calm. I understand, Your Majesty. However, the Emperor continued, I have decided on a different course of action. The Imperial fleet will escort your refugees to neutral territory. The bridge fell silent. Lee stared at the screen. Not sure he had heard correctly. Your Majesty? You heard me correctly, Captain. We will ensure the safe passage of all refugees to the territory of their choosing. Lieutenant Kim's hands shook as she monitored the communications. Around the galaxy, millions of beings watched this conversation in real time. Your Majesty, Lee said carefully, may I ask what changed your mind? Emperor Thexvar was quiet for a moment. You did, Captain Lee. You showed me something I had not seen before. Sir, strength that protects rather than conquers. Power that serves rather than rules. The Emperor paused. Perhaps the Empire has forgotten that true strength means protecting those who cannot protect themselves. On his flagship, Commander Zekthros received the Emperor's orders with amazement. He immediately began reorganizing his fleet to provide escort formation for the refugee ships. Sir, his tactical officer Veltar asked, are we really going to protect the same beings we came to destroy? Zekthros thought about Captain Lee's words. Someone needs to, he said finally, surprising himself. The evacuation continued, with Imperial ships providing protection. Human and Imperial crews worked together to transfer refugees safely. Dr. Choi Hae-jin found herself treating patients alongside Imperial medical teams. The Zephyrian child, she asked an Imperial medic, do you have treatment for radiation poisoning in your medical bay? Yes, doctor. Our equipment might be more effective than yours for her species. Then let's work together. As the rescue operation proceeded, something unexpected began happening. Imperial soldiers started volunteering to help carry supplies and assist elderly refugees. Commander Zekthros himself was seen helping a group of Keitharan children board a transport ship. Why are you helping us? One of the children asked him in their musical language. Zekthros struggled to answer. In his military training, there had been no lessons about protecting enemy civilians. Because, he said finally, it's the right thing to do. 2 days later, the last refugee ship reached neutral territory safely. The combined human and Imperial fleet had successfully evacuated over 2,000 beings to worlds where they could start new lives. Captain Lee stood on his bridge, exhausted but satisfied. The rescue was complete, and somehow, no one had died. "Captain," Kim reported, "we're receiving a transmission from Emperor Thexvar." The Emperor appeared on screen once more. "Captain Lee, you have given me much to think about. I would like to propose something." Quote, "Yes, Your Majesty? Formal peace negotiations between the Empire and all major powers. It seems we have been fighting too long and protecting too little." 6 months later, Ambassador Park Ji-woo signed the Galactic Peace Accords in a ceremony watched across the known universe. The treaty established protected humanitarian corridors and joint rescue protocols for all spacefaring civilizations. The treaty's opening words were simple: "These are children and families. They are not soldiers." Captain Lee returned to Earth as a hero, though he never felt comfortable with the attention. What mattered to him was that the refugees were safe and families were reunited. The little Zephyrian girl, with radiation poisoning, made a full recovery. Her family settled on a peaceful agricultural world where they could grow the crystal fruits their species needed. She often asked her parents about the humans who had saved them. Dr. Choi Hee-jin established the first interspecies medical exchange program, where doctors from different civilizations shared knowledge about treating various species. Imperial and human medical teams now work together regularly. Commander Zekthros resigned from the Imperial military and joined the new Galactic Humanitarian Fleet. His flagship was renamed the Harmony's Shield, in honor of the human vessel that had started everything. The Harmony itself was retired from military service and became a symbol displayed in the new Galactic Peace Museum on the neutral world of Haven. Children from dozens of species visited it every day, learning about the time when one ship's crew decided that some things were more important than following orders. Admiral Kang Soo-jin was promoted to head of Earth's Humanitarian Operations Command. Her first mission was to respond to a crisis in the Andromeda border region, where 3 different species needed evacuation from a dying star system. Her response became famous across the galaxy. "Dispatch all available ships immediately. Some things are more important than politics." Emperor Thexvar transformed the Imperial military from a conquest force into a protection service. His new doctrine stated that the Empire's purpose was to serve all beings in Imperial space, not just rule them. The change was not easy, but it was necessary. Years later, when young beings from across the galaxy asked what had started the Great Peace, their teachers told them about Captain Lee Min-jun and the crew of the Harmony. One human ship that refused to let others suffer alone. The story became a lesson taught in schools throughout known space, that sometimes the most important thing anyone can do is simply care about someone else. That courage means protecting others, even when it's dangerous. That real strength comes from helping, not hurting. And in quiet moments, when difficult choices had to be made, leaders across the galaxy would ask themselves a simple question: what would Captain Lee do? The answer was always the same: protect the innocent, help the helpless, and never abandon those who needed saving. Because that's what humans do. And in the end, it's what everyone should do.